meters. We changed locations and we built a new building. All of those changes were pretty significant for us. The total cost of the project was $160 million, Canadian, American, they're about the same right now, which is unusual. And we spent about $17 million on the exhibits, just to give you a sense of what the scale of the project was. It's about 50,000 square feet of exhibits in 5 different exhibit halls, and that means about 5,000 square meters. We went from a very traditional science center of interactive hands-on stuff that you'd see in a lot of different places. Push a button, get a response, the classic kinds of things that you see everywhere, a classic collection of old exhibits. And we felt that for our new science center, we needed to rethink, we needed to change what we were going to do, and we also felt that we needed to change how we were going to do that. And because Calgary is a very dynamic city, it has the largest concentration of engineers of any city in Canada. It is very wealthy on one hand and very poor on another hand. It is the center for a lot of the oil and gas companies that exist. It has the fortunate reputation of being connected to the oil sands and all the things that go along with that. We also know that in Calgary, as we go along, we're running out of people to fill the jobs in the engineering and science sectors. Young people are not going into that. As a culture in Canada, we're not very innovative. We're not very risk takers. We're not entrepreneurial in the same ways that a lot of countries are, and we felt that those were things that we needed to address. So my story is, Kim asked us to come up with a story about what we did and how we did it. We felt that it was really important to take every idea that we could think of out into our audiences and try these things out. And so what we do is pilot test. So very early on in the development of an idea, it's built very rapidly. It's taken out in front of as many people as we can find, ages that are appropriate. We might build these things out of cardboard and duct tape. We'll use materials that are around. We'll test very quickly to see how people respond to things. We'll modify based on what they do, and we will continue to develop those things. If the idea doesn't work, if people aren't spending time with it, if there's no conversations that develop, if there are no problem solving or risk-taking or collaboration that we see, then the idea goes away very quickly. And so this is a fairly dramatic change for a lot of science centers, in particular for us. The idea that your audience becomes your point of arbitration about what exhibits make it to the floor, which ones don't. It means you have to give up control and authority over your content. And so this was a very interesting time for us. And for me in particular, I'm a biologist by training. One of the exhibit halls that we were working on was called the Human Body Gallery, the exhibit hall. And I was pretty convinced that I'd seen it all, the greatest biology exhibits in the world, and this would be a really easy thing to do. We take out these ideas about human physiology and anatomy, and we test them, and people would love it, and we could move on to the next exhibit gallery. Well, that really tanked. Nobody was engaging with that stuff. They all kind of looked at it and they walked away. And so what we determined through a lot of panic and a lot of testing was that people were much more interested in things to do with their relationships with each other, with their ways that they spoke to each other, how they fell in love, how they fell out of love. A lot of topics that seemed a little bit odd, but very compelling. And so through the course of the testing of these ideas, the exhibit went from being about the human body to about being human. And so that letting go of control was really very, very important for us to be able to do, because we felt that the exhibits that ended up on the floor should be created with the audience rather than us creating them and saying this is what you should know. It was more a dialogue about what went on. So as a leader, what does that mean? Well, it means you really have to sort of let go of that authority, of that control. You really need to be able to create the space for these kinds of experiments, for things to work and not work, to be willing to look at the results of what you see and go in a path that you may not want to go in. It also means that you have to be comfortable with the audience driving that direction. And that's hard for some of our science hitters to do. It also means that you have to be comfortable when things don't go well, and in front of your staff as a leader, it really helps if you don't flinch or run away screaming or go, well, what were you thinking when you did this? And look more for what comes out of those experiments so that we can continue to develop the relationships that we want with the audience. One of the things that we struggled with as we went along in this is how do we take that very creative, very engaging approach from the standpoint of developing new exhibits, and how do we take that into an operational entity? How do you make sure that those experiments have room to continue so that the dialogue continues with your audience as you go forward? And so what we determined through the course of that is that our values had to reflect what we were trying to accomplish. So one of our values is courage. The courage to take a risk, to have something fail, to learn from that failure, to collaborate with our community and get better. And so this sort of commitment to these values has to start at our CEO level and all the way down. And our CEO had an opportunity to see an experiment that went horribly wrong with 100 gallons of Jell-O one day. And she was pretty amazing. She went off and found the mop to help clean up as the Jell-O was exploding around her, and talked to the staff about what they were trying to do and how they were working on this, so that these folks who had felt very badly about an experiment that had failed were comfortable and confident enough to go forward and try a new one. And so that change has become part of our culture and part of our DNA. Thank you.